sorry, this like just remind me of something else. Besides the concerns of the actual posts and what people are talking about, the actual physical locations of the polling station is always a top concern of mine too, which the only reason I thought of that about that because I'm thinking about all the people who get very passionate and angry about their things, and then we have a polling station that's at a school, and it's just and it's not anything they're doing wrong, but now all of a sudden there is a little bit more top of mind threat because typically they don't do it during school while school's engaged, but it's still in areas of concern where what happens if someone decides to cause physical violence around that polling station or in that polling station? What happens if there's a bomb threat? Now it's not just a bomb threat to a polling station, it's a bomb threat to a elementary school or a middle school, whatever have you, especially when you get into the cities where everything's cramped together. So that's another thing besides keywords and hashtags on the actual political parties. I'll actually start mentioning because people will at the locations of the poll stations. Like if it's at a high school, they'll say like at such and such high school, like your poll worker was the worst. They kept trying to make me vote this way. And they were really rude. Or at this polling station, there's no handicap access. Like this is obviously voter discrimination and I'm not able to vote. Which could be true. I'm not trying to say it's not, but you have to look into it and then address it. So that's another thing I also plug in is sometimes key locations. If not, if I have them all, obviously it's a lot, and that's kind of better on the more local side of the house if I really want to target it. But if I have some major locations where a lot of people turn out to vote in, I'd probably plug in those locations and keywords as well. Because a lot of people won't they'll talk about voting in elections, but they'll at the location that they're actually doing it.
So that means that you probably spend a lot of time doing what I like to call your homework, trying to understand what
Yes.
words to use, trying to understand the landscape, maybe even the language, because I know, for example, in the US, there's a lot of Spanish speaking folks, so you may also translate something. So how do you do, because the election is always, say, in a constrained time, but you need to plan beforehand, but there's not enough information dripping in. Do you then use maybe, let's say, previous elections just to get that general grasp of, hey, what kind of wording and phrasing is at least mandatory to get started with?
Yeah, so the way I would work it, and some of the amazing analysts I've gotten to work with, is going on past, obviously, what happened in 2020. Let's see, especially when it comes to, obviously, the hashtags can sometimes differ. We still include them because sometimes humans are lazy and we'll just repeat the same thing or make a twist on it. But also just trying to figure out who are the prominent speakers who are making the most noise on these social media platforms. Are they still relevant? Are they still present? That's usually who we go to first because they're kind of the trendsetter, whether it be a local politician or just a celebrity or an influencer now that we have nowadays. And just try and keep track of them and seeing like what are they saying? Are they using any specific hashtags yet? Are they talking about any very specific topics that we should keep in mind? Because usually they're the ones who set the trend and then people just grab onto it and make variations of it. So that's like one thing. Obviously, it's really hard because again, like I haven't seen any specific hashtags just yet, but that was just doing a quick glance, trying to just scrape the surface. But yeah, like you just said, it's a lot of doing your homework. It's like almost preparing for to write a paper. You have to research and get your documents in order before you can actually write out your analysis type of
Yeah.
situation.